when you're from, let's say, not a music center like LA, New York, Nashville, you say, well, I got to go over there. I got to go there. And Steve got that idea. That notion came to his head. I have to go to Greenwich Village. And I mean, there were other reasons that you know, made that trip really important. But he went out there and he realized very quickly by meeting with people. I mean, I love the story about the basket house. My friend Mark Ross, who played for you over when you were in Eugene.
In Eugene, yeah, he lives in Eugene now.
And Mark humbly saying that you know, he was the turnover act at the basket houses. And folks, we talked about this a little bit when we had Lynn Hardy on the program, and she was talking about the basket houses and the way that eventually you had somebody who basically didn't do such a good job, so you could empty out the house.
Right.
And then with the turnover act. And you know, Steve went out there and he realized that while it was very interesting, it wasn't the right place for him, and he went back to Chicago. Are there any thoughts about that?
Well, Chicago was no slouch as a place to learn music. I mean, it was a cornucopia of musical influences. Chicago, a lot of music came from the South with the emancipation of African Americans, obviously. So the blues was huge in Chicago. And there really was a flowering folk scene there, spawned by Earl Pianki and other club owners. In fact, Chris Christopherson called Chicago in the 70s was the Greenwich Village of the 70s. In other words, the scene had sort of shifted to Chicago, and I think Goodman knew that. There still is sort of an inferiority complex about Chicago, though. You know, the comedy troupe that we know about is called The Second City. And that came from an essay in 1950 about Chicago being second to the coasts, second to New York and LA. And so, you know, Goodman really wanted to stay loyal to his hometown, and really he was the hub of the scene in Chicago. But eventually, another 10 years later, he succumbed to going to New York or LA. Now, he went to New York frequently for his leukemia treatments at Sloan Kettering, but where he moved eventually was to Seal Beach, just south of LA. And the irony is that the more that he was straining for commercial success, the worse that he did.